Hello, everybody. Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, with our first ever live show. So we're doing this with there's been a lot of technical issues trying to get this off the ground, so I apologize if there's some video delays or anything happening. But Riker, how does it feel to be on live right now?
Well, I can't see anything, so it just seems to me like we're doing a regular Zoom meeting, Ben. We're here to break down basketball. We've been listening to the comment section, and finally, after 3 years of podcasting, we're trying to integrate some face-to-face
Yeah,
time.
so definitely let us know in the chat. I think I can scroll on the chat right now. Oh, the hawk! I'm getting roasted from my hair already. So it's No, I
Dude, you
think the
gotta
hair's
cut
looking
that hair.
fresh. Got the low quality camera right now, but that's going to be updated hopefully in the next one. But Riker, there's been a lot of Raptors news happening the past week or so. We've been making some videos and all that, but the guy that everyone's talking about with Raptors free agency, it's Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet. There's been more news today saying that the Knicks are after Fred VanVleet again. I don't know. There's more reports saying Malcolm Brogdon's going to be a guy that or a comparable contract for Fred VanVleet. So we've already made a video on the Knicks. The fact that it's continuing to persist, is this more of a just slow day in the news media for the Knicks, or does this mean they're actually going to make a harder push after him?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that they were going to make a push about him, Ben, or for him specifically. They have a dead franchise. They have a franchise that's in desperate need of a veteran type player, and usually that court leadership comes from the point guard. So they're going to be vying hard for a guy just like Fred VanVleet. And if we're talking about a similar contract to Malcolm Brogdon, to me it's ridiculous. I don't see how they could potentially land him if you're offering him low 20s. I mean, the Raptors would easily match that, but I think it's very legitimate that they're going to be one of the top teams making a serious push
Yeah,
when the
and
time comes.
do you like that sort of contract value for Malcolm, like that Malcolm Brogdon type contract? Because for the Indiana Pacers, he's currently making about 21, 22 million per year over 4 years. Obviously, we've been talking about the ideal contract is like a $30 million 1 year deal for Fred VanVleet, and then see if we get Giannis, keep that flexibility. But we'd obviously expect Fred to try and cash in on that long term money. You never know with injuries or any of those sorts of things, but I don't know. I'd definitely be comfortable paying Fred VanVleet, especially a 4 year, 22 million, low 20s. I think that's what his market value would be.
Yeah, you would think, because I mean, this guy is not an all-star yet. Yeah, he received a very deserving vote for Finals MVP. That one sole vote that didn't go in Kawhi Leonard's favor 2 years ago. But realistically, Ben, the reason we think that the Raptors will pay Fred VanVleet any amount of money, right, to not let him walk is because once Kyle Lowry is out of the helm as that starting point guard, we've only seen them two in tandem, which is, it's a pretty undersized backcourt. But when the time comes that Lowry finally shifts over to the bench, Fred VanVleet's going to become the natural one, which is promising because he's not going to be that liability he's a terrific defender, but he's not going to be a liability anymore because of his height. And that's why when we talked about trade scenarios involving him and Victor Oladipo, we ultimately decided wouldn't work because Oladipo isn't going to be your point guard of the future.
Yeah,
Fred
and we
VanVleet
can
is.
sort of get into Depot. I think we're going to dive into a bit of Oladipo talk later in the podcast. But yeah, the big thing is Fred VanVleet is a point guard, and obviously it's tough running more of an undersized backcourt. And I think Fred playing his natural position. But how long do you think Kyle Lowry has left playing at this high level? Because Masai.
You tell me, Ben. I think you think Kyle
Like,
Lowry is
that's all I'm
ageless,
saying.
but this guy, he's.
That's my guy.
But listen, he has a history of injuries. He is a performer come playoff time, but and the Raptors play him 40 minutes per game. It's absurd. I think as time goes on, his career he gets heavier and heavier minutes in the rotation. Eventually, that has to stop, and the Raptors are at a point where not only is their developmental team starting to show promise, but I think that they're also serviceable to get wins during the regular season. Ben Davis, Norman Powell's at a point that he's playing extremely well. Matt Thomas is going to need some minutes. Maybe Paul Watson. There's a lot of guys that you can put out there and play and restrict Kyle Lowry's minutes.
Yeah, well, we're going to make a bunch of videos on those sort of breakout guys as the season inches nearer. But are you saying we should hire Mike Budenholzer as head coach to limit Kyle Lowry's minutes?
Well, listen, it would be he's the anti-Nick Nurse. Stick to one lineup and limit your minutes. So if we wanted the complete opposite direction for the Toronto Raptors, then yeah. Mike Budenholzer.
That's
hard no.
Hit the mic, break my air. But yeah, no, that's a fair point. I'm trying to creep the chat right now. I think no one's complaining about the audio, so I think it's gonna be good. But that's good news. But Masai Ujiri came out.
But in celebration, wait, I'm breaking it out.
Those fire audio gifs got the lights cooking on this. Got the lights cooking on this, boys. Once Kyle Lowry resigns, once Fred VanVleet resigns, we're going to get those lights. But Masai Ujiri even came out and said that Lowry's going to be a guy that seemingly breaks those conventions and is getting better as he ages. And what would you put that timeline on? Do you think it's going to be just one more season of starting Lowry caliber point guard? Do you think an injury is going to come up? What's your sort of prediction you're going to throw out on that?
Yeah, I could see an injury being very likely, Ben. But what's also nice is we talk about Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry, and the relevance is that if you end up paying Fred VanVleet over 4 years, and you're saying now we're limiting cap space to bring in Giannis, well, Kyle Lowry's contract, his big $30 million, is up next season, and you don't need to re-sign him for big money. I mean, I'm sure he will probably still command it. He'll probably still be worth it more or less. But if you're looking at, what's the future of this Toronto Raptors team, even if Kyle Lowry is healthy enough to play him, is he still the main guy for a regular season? Is he still the main point guard when you have Giannis potentially on the team, Ben? So I think maybe I don't know if his body is going to wear out before his useful life on the team wears out. I think it'd be nice to have him shift into the backup point guard position just to demo it.
And then having Fred obviously there to sort of be that main guy to take up that mantle. Obviously, that would be the perfect situation. So both of you and I agree. So you're comfortable with that 22 million, and you're confident Fred VanVleet will return on that, because I am.
You're confident he will return? No, what if the Pistons come in and offer him 27 million?
I'm saying if he gets offered the 22 million by these other teams. Like, obviously a Charlotte or a Piston, like, I don't know about the Charlotte Hornets, they have like 8 point guards, they're paying $20 million, but different guys, like, he could get sent around the league. But if his market value is 22, I think we'll keep him, even with Giannis and all those situations happening.
Market value 22 million is a steal, Ben. I have him in a couple of trade scenarios for later on in the podcast. And Charlotte, the point of Charlotte, we know the highest paid guy is Nicolas Batum. So they have a lot of promising young guys, but they haven't paid any of them yet. Except for Terry Rozier.
Terry Rozier out here finessing Michael Jordan. But Ryker, we have some Raptors news, and we're gonna see if this segment video works on this live stream. So I'm gonna throw it out here now. Okay, we're back. Hopefully that worked, but
when we rewatch this, I hope it's not as bad as what I think it could be. I hope that
both our voices are just completely delayed. We'll see what happens. But we got some news with the Raptors. Obviously, that was a report. We probably could have threw that clip in front of the Fred video. But some news: Toronto Raptors changed their jerseys, Ryker. We got a new set of jerseys. Also trying out a thing here. Gonna try and put an overlay. But we got 3 new jerseys, Ryker. The white and red one, the black and red one, and the completely black one with the Michael Jordan symbol. What are your thoughts on that, Ryker?
I don't like them. Off of a first glance, I don't really like. I like the black colorway, but the other two, not a huge fan.
Not a huge fan. You like the pinstripes and stuff?
To me, I don't know. To me, it's too simple. I don't have the best eye, let's say, for fashion. So all I can speak to is it aesthetically pleasing when I'm personally watching it? And I look at the color wave, and I don't know if it's simplicity or maybe just to me, it's weird that they're really sticking to the whole Arrow North thing, but now they've eliminated North and they're just going with Raptors. I don't know. I'm not keen on the jerseys, man, to be honest.
I put the overlay on. We'll see if that stayed up. But I kind of mess with the jerseys. I think they look really nice. But the one thing that sort of gets me, I'll throw the jerseys back on the screen, is the colors inside the shading around the lettering. I feel like they just had to stick to like one color, like black and white on one jersey. Like the white jerseys just have a white overlay, like they did with the championship jerseys. The red and black ones don't have that white border on the inside and make it all messy. I'm in agreement with you. I think the black ones with the pinstripes are real nice, but I don't know. Let's see what the chat's saying. Is this pre-recorded? Nah. Loving the podcast. Okay, I don't know how delayed this is. Oh, it looks like it works on the video. That's cool. The black one's fire. People like the black jersey there, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the black is the nicest. And you know what? I think that now that you pointed out, I think that's right. I'm looking at it here on my phone too. I think there's nothing wrong with the white colorway. Like having just a clean white jersey can be nice, but I agree. I think it's the black, the bolding around the letters that just make it look sloppy.
Yeah,
or something.
that's what makes it a little bit just messy. Like I feel like, and someone on Raptors Reddit actually did re-edits of the jerseys, got rid of those overlays, and it looked really clean. But Riker, it looked like real nice. We probably should have found that before, throw that up and get those edits. But Riker, what jersey are you buying out of these new look jerseys? You're getting a Vince Carter one?
Not a Vince Carter specifically. I know they're gonna mess with the Toronto Raptors retro at some point. They're probably gonna plug a Toronto Huskies jersey at some point as well, which for one I'm a fan of. I know we're not blue as a team, but I think those Husky jerseys are really clean. I've never been a big jersey guy, Ben. I know you like to rock with the jerseys, but maybe when we land Giannis.
Actually, I tried to finesse a way to get a Giannis jersey with the white chevron. I actually was gonna buy an Antetokounmpo, but didn't work out, so I ended up sliding. I've already got a Siakam one ordered to go with my OG collection. I haven't actually put the jerseys behind the wall. That'll be for next week. But I don't know. I went all in on Siakam. I trust he's gonna bounce back. Do you think that was a good purchase, Riker? Yeah.
I think so. I mean, you were gifted to my recollection. You were gifted a Kawhi Leonard jersey, so there's no shame in that, and there's no shame in immortalizing a guy that brought an NBA trophy to the league. I think that some fans were on the verge of maybe wanting to burn their Siakam jerseys after this bubble playoffs. I don't think it would be a stretch to say that, exclusively based on what we saw in the comment section of our reaction podcasts. I think that the discontentment towards that man was on another level, frankly, but I think it'll pay off long term. You keep it. It might be worth a ton in the future, Ben, when Siakam explodes next season and becomes MIP and MVP.
Can you get MIP the first time? Has anyone ever won Most Improved Player twice, Riker? We need someone like Joe Rogan, like that does like all the fact checking for these live podcasts. Yeah, Jamie,
Jamie?
Someone to pull up and just yell in here, but yeah, the chat seemed to be blowing up. I think we're like a minute behind on this chat, but future point guard.
That's it. All right, I'm gonna do a quick check and see if we've ever seen two
most improved guys
players.
Yeah, but I'm confident Siakam's gonna have a bounce back. We made a whole video on Siakam sort of coming back and being that number one option and be able to score. I think he's gonna come back with a vengeance. We know when he's sort of focused in off season, he likes to, come out really just completely improved. The only season he really didn't improve was the bubble season. He was just completely out of his rhythm. Nick Nurse came out and said, he came back a little bit out of shape, all these sorts of things. So it's kind of a mess. But Riker, we've had a little report, another little thing come out, or I don't even know if it's a report. Someone speaking on the Raptors history in a podcast. David West pulling up and giving shout-outs to Andrea Bargnani and Chris Bosh, saying that they came in this NBA way too early, that they were too early for their time, and if they played in today's NBA, they'd be completely dominant. And what are your thoughts? Because I get the Chris Bosh thing. I think a lot of people would agree with Bosh, being a stretch big that can play defense, is mobile, right? I think he ended his career, obviously not due to himself, just being early, but he sort of left the league just at the wrong time as all the five started becoming three-point shooting big men. But Andrea Bargnani, that was a bit jarring. That was a bit shocking, Riker.
Yeah, it's funny because to me the Bosh thing makes no sense. How many multiple All-Stars was Chris Bosh while he was a Toronto Raptor? Then he goes to Miami and wins 2 championships. So it's not like he was before his. How much better can you get? Like if that's
Yeah.
before your time, like what are you expecting him to be a multi NBA champion on the Raptors? Like I think the argument there, if you're saying with Bosch, is he's before his time getting drafted to the quality team that the Raptors are now compared to when he first entered the league. But you can
Yeah.
make that statement with anybody. You know, if Vince Carter got drafted now with the current ability of the Raptors, then he would be much improved. But Bargnani, to me, it makes sense. And we sing high from that Bargnani hilltop with him being a stretch big that's able to shoot the three. His defense is sorely lacking. So maybe the closest player comparison would be Bertans on the Washington Wizards. But I mean, listen, I think he would be serviceable
So
in today's NBA.
do you think Bargnani would be better in today's league, the same, or worse?
I think he would be better because you don't have to match him up against traditional bigs, because if he's wasting all of his energy banging bodies down in the key, you know, really being worried about, I don't know, help defense, I guess. I don't think that was his game. I think we can both agree. But if you're sticking him out on either zone coverage or just have him running around guarding, you know, a stretch 4, I think that's a perfect position for Bargnani. And then you just keep him out. You don't have to play him down the post like they did a lot when he was on.
See, the thing about it was Bargnani actually wasn't that bad of like a one-on-one post defender. Like he could stay in front of people-ish, because he was big, right? Like he wasn't a small guy by any means. You know, he could sort of bang down low. His biggest issue was sort of being mobile on help side defense. He just let people walk completely by him. He was just a complete mess on that front. And yes, I get that three-point shooting, everyone wants a three-point shooting big, and everyone wants, and you brought up the Bertans sort of comparison, but Bargnani wasn't really that type of shooter. He was just a big that could shoot. You know what I mean? He wasn't a guy that's a sniper that's doing this. He was a great all-around scorer. He had that sort of pump fake. He had the JV pump fake before JV was birthed to this Toronto Raptors team, but he'd be pump faking people from the three-point line, traveling left, right, and center, but we'll leave that aside. But he could sort of drive, finish, and he had a couple 18, 20-point per game seasons. But he just get completely dominated when people are driving in. He'd just reach, he'd foul a lot. And, I don't know, a spaced out league where he's supposed to be running around the court, even in zone coverages, I think he'd be completely eaten apart. And, you know, I look at him instead of a Bertans, more of a Ryan Anderson type of guy that, again, a few years ago was a complete beast and then didn't really lose that much skill, could still knock down the threes, but just couldn't be played on the court. He wasn't able to even get minutes on that Phoenix Suns team. So I look at that route as more of a Bargnani thing. But the one...
Yeah. Or even Mirotic, you could even make that sort of
no, for
comparison.
sure.
But the killer is with those guys, so you have them out there because you expect them to come off the bench and hit threes. And actually, you're absolutely right that Bargnani had a couple of 18, 20-point per game seasons. So his third season onwards until his last season with the Raptors, he was 15+. But every year, his three-point shooting got worse. 41%, 37%, 34%, 29%. And then I think the Raptors are like, let's get this guy out of here. So that's the thing, and it's the same with any 3 and D guy that the Raptors bring in. I agree. If you can't do the D, then the 3 is not enough, and if you can't even do the 3, then it's like, what are you doing on the team to Mike Carroll?
That's tough. That's why we have a gold star named after him. But the one thing I do want to say, I've been an avid supporter of this. Andrea Bargnani may have been the greatest screen hedger of all time. You know when someone's setting a screen and you pop out? That man's, I don't care if it was D Rose, I don't care if you got prime Michael Jordan out there. In terms of hedging, he wouldn't get back very fast. He wouldn't get back to like the post open in the key. But like, a big usually hedges. You and I would know, like a big hedges, you're trying to just cross him up and get around him. No one was getting around Andrea Bargnani. Doing the double slide hedging, bro, it was it was a sight to behold.
That's fundamental basketball there. That's learning how to play basketball in Italy. They're like, if you're going to screen the hedges, you're going to do it. You're going to fully commit. There's no ego on this defense. You're not going to try to slide. You're not going to try to nothing. You're going 100% in.
Bro.
I like that. The NBA's best hedge
I think Baz Cabinet brought out some film of Andrea Bargnani hedging screens and as a 13-year-old provincial squad. Do you remember that?
Oh, it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me.
That.
and it's a weird person to take example from. It's like, all right, you know, I'm trying to think of like a really scrub player in the NBA, and then to study tape of them. Like, all right, let's study tape of Mario Hezonja coming off of a screen for like
Let's
pick
take a
and pop
passing
three.
lesson from Carmelo
No.
Anthony, boys.
Mm-hmm. Although speaking of news, we could almost rerun the track. I did hear another report. Well, it wasn't a report; it was just a comment saying Toronto could be a potential landing place for
Really?
Carmelo Anthony. Yeah, but this was more of like I want Toronto to be a potential landing place for Carmelo Anthony.
Okay.
It was an opinionated. It was a perspective, which to me is absurd. Then I looked at the numbers, and he was serviceable on Portland. But I think every game that I think the issue is he fails the eye test. You know, he gets kind of a dead 43% from the field, 38% from three. Like those are good numbers. 15 points per game, heavy minutes, right? But those are good numbers at face value. But he fails the eye test. You know, he does things wrong, and he takes bad shots, or like crucial shots he'll miss.
No, like.
So I just want to put that to bed.
I'm not a Carmelo hater. Like one person on this podcast. I liked him when he was a Knick and a Nugget. You know, bringing teams to the playoffs, all those sorts of things. But defensively, he just doesn't really have it that much. I thought he was really good in the bubble. In the playoffs, he hit some clutch shots. He got that win against LA Lakers, and. You know, I think the biggest issue with him is he obviously wouldn't start on our team. Like, we can bring him in. I think the big news, actually, is if Chris Paul goes to the Knicks, then Carmelo wants to go to the Knicks. That's, like, the big one I've seen. What as a former Knicks fan, Riker, what are your thoughts on that, having Chris Paul, RJ, and Carmelo?
Makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. But I don't want it. I don't even want to waste time commenting about the Knicks, Ben. We have other things to talk
RJ Barrett,
about,
bro?
Including. No. We're gonna segue. I'm gonna bring it back so we can segue naturally. But we're talking about Bosch. That Bosch take is just dumb. The Bosch take being 7 years away from being in the prime NBA. I mean, he was, like I said, he was a multi-time NBA All-Star and a 2-time NBA champion. What are you talking about, David West? Like, what did he miss? What could he have done better? But the Bargnani take is interesting because the Raptors are now in the market then for potentially a backup center and who can fill the void of Marc Gasol, because for all intents and purposes, it sounds like he's out the door and probably going to be shipped off to Spain to sort of finish his career in his hometown, his home area, and that leaves a gaping spot. I mean, we're assuming that Serge Ibaka is going to shift. Well, one, be resigned, two, shift into that starting lineup. What's going to happen now? Who are we looking at?
We've made a bunch of videos. I think we got flamed when we threw out the name Mason Plumlee in one of the videos.
One of the specific comments. Why did you guys
So,
waste
in
so much time
response
talking
to
about
that
Mason
comment,
Plumlee?
Riker and I actually planned this live to talk for 30 minutes about Mason Plumlee. No, but in all seriousness, there's been names thrown out everywhere. Like,
You got it, brother.
Andre Drummond, Hassan Whiteside, Bismack Biyombo, a lot of these players. I think Riker's frozen right now on my screen. So, okay, he's getting his internet back, so he's frozen on this one point right here. So it's a pretty clutch thing to look at. Okay, it looks like he's back. But we've seen rumors about everything. There's people wanted the Miles Turner trade rumor. You know, when Miles Turner and Oladipo want to trade, they want us to make a whole video on that. Let us know in the chat if you guys want us to dedicate a whole video. But would you be interested in trading for a Miles Turner before we get into the other free agents?
No, I wouldn't be interested in trading for Miles Turner. I have 3 trades.
Yeah.
That's for later in the video that I would specifically like to see, because who are you trading at this point for Miles Turner? The majority of the guys on contract are, you know, that $2 million deal or that rookie contract or that 2-way contract, basically. And then we have Norman Powell, who's the only mid-level guy, really. And then the rest of our players are those huge $20+ million. Fred VanVleet will likely be resigned at that. Serge Ibaka, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam. There's nobody that in that type of deal to bring back that level, that caliber player that would make sense.
No, it's I don't know. The thing about Miles Turner is he is an attractive sort of big man for the Toronto Raptors, right? Like he plays defense, he can knock down set threes, and I don't know. Maybe you trade a young guy and a pick or something, some salary filler to make that move happen. I don't really know, but you know, let us know in the chat. We'll scope this. I haven't really been we're behind on the chat watching it live, so I don't know what people are saying, but definitely we'll make a video on it if you guys want to see it. But there's a bunch of free agents, Riker. A bunch of free agents, and one of them is Andre Drummond. That's I've seen a bunch of photoshops of him in a Toronto Raptors jersey. You attracted to that at all?
No. Just end the video right there. Absolutely not. And I would love to know who's putting those out there, because I would assume that it's exclusively for clickbait and specifically to stir hate comments and just rage. You know, the same way that Donald Trump does anything. You know, like they just want that negative attention. Andre Drummond makes no sense, man. That is, it's absurd. And you know what? I've even said this. He is the most useless player in the NBA for his stat line. And this is not a criticism
you're letting his own
necessarily towards him. It really is okay. It only just sucks, but his stats also show it. But the issue with Andre Drummond is he's basically a career 20 and 20 player. And to have a player that's getting 20, he's pulling down 20 rebounds off the glass per night. He's getting 20 points in the paint per night. You would have to think that that's contributing to something, but these are in blowout losses. It's just empty stat lines, Ben. And you bring a guy in like that, that's, you know, he's not really helping anything in the flow of an offense. Makes no sense, especially for the amount you'd have to pay him, because his current contract is $22 million.
Well, I don't see his market value being crazy high, and I think he'd opt out considering, you know, maybe in 2 years no one wants to run any bigs at all. Maybe his agents are looking forward to that. But I think the one point you can make for Andre Drummond is he's just been on some trash teams. You know, the Pistons didn't really have any pieces around him. Now on the Cavs, he's playing with splitting minutes with Tristan Thompson, running with a bunch of young guys that can't get him the ball. I don't know. I think him in a good situation, I think could potentially be interesting. I think he still has sort of that level of value as a DeAndre Jordan or something. So he'd be interesting. I saw him Whiteside. Yeah.
He's okay. This is it. Sorry, Ben. He's a 17-15 guy. And now let's say this guy who's a career starter, who's averaging 17-15, which is really all-star stats in the East, but again on weak teams, so he's never really been able to, you know, display his total prowess,
Yep.
I guess, on a good team like you said. If somehow his market value slipped to $15 million and he was somehow comfortable to come in off the bench, would you want him?
Oh yeah, if he come off the bench, bro. I mean, Serge Ibaka run most of the minutes, so you can have a big out there to stretch the floor and all that sort of stuff. Like, I don't want him eating into Fred VanVleet or Serge Ibaka's money, but if he could be that backup big, because he gets rebounds, he definitely has value in certain situations. And I think as a backup big, he could definitely eat. Because most teams now are moving to the point, and this is sort of the David West point, bigs that can stretch the floor, right? And Chris Bosh would perfectly fit that. I'd say every team in the league has one of those guys now, but not really coming off the bench. And Andre Drummond facing guys coming off the bench will bully them. And having getting minutes with Kyle Lowry to feed him in the paint, right? That's a point guard that he's really never played with. So maybe that can be an option. And there's also the upside of him, because there's the potential that, hey, this guy was once looked at as a multi-time all-star, all these sorts of things, right? Like, he bounces back to that form, but or he could go the route of a Greg Monroe, just 2 years behind.
Yep. Well, then here's the interesting thing, though, is we really need to look at, because I'm of the opinion you can sign anybody on a 1-year deal for any amount of money. You could give Andre Drummond $30 million for 1 year. Wouldn't matter. Like, it, you know, I think the Raptors need to be very cautious when they're looking at signing guys long term when you're getting above $10-15 million, because now you're limiting cap space and you're limiting the ability to be flexible coming into next free agency. But on a short term deal, you can basically do whatever you want. But you have to still frame it as, what are these guys going to offer come playoff time? And you look at the series against the Boston Celtics, you look at a potential series against the Miami Heat, you look at a potential series against the Brooklyn Nets, who could play small probably if they want, with Caris LeVert and Durant and Kyrie and a lot of really talented guards on that team. He's a guy, like we've come to see, if you don't have 5 mobile defenders that can guard against a lot of perimeter sort of off-ball screens and spacing, they're unplayable. So I understand what you're saying, but wouldn't you rather, like, to bring, the arguments for bringing him in, but even with his upside, that upside is completely nullified come playoff time. And the Raptors are still wanting to contend for a championship. So would you not rather just have a guy who is much less known in the NBA, or much less known at the level that Andre Drummond is? Maybe would turn some heads with the potential signing, but at least you'd be able to play him some amount of minutes come playoff time. You know, he'd be able to go out there and hit a three if really needed. He'd be able to rotate around to, you know, Daniel Tice in the corner, whatever. Like, would you not rather have a guy like that?
No, like, clearly. And that's why I like the point of you saying bring him off the bench, like having that sort of type of role. And that would be more appeasing for a big lumbering guy that could potentially fill a role in that area, but still having Serge Ibaka as our main big guy. OG Anunoby, if we really want to run some small ball. I think that would be the route if I was GM of the Toronto Raptors I'd go with.
But again, is that not limiting come playoff time? Because now you're assuming that Serge Ibaka plus
that's what I said. You can run Serge, like if Andre Drummond becomes unplayable. And I think we were going to talk about Hassan. Yeah. If we're going to talk about him, Hassan Whiteside I think falls under this boat as well. So we'll just leave them. If we're going to go after that type of big, right? He definitely isn't unplayable in all series. If we're playing the Celtics, yes, I agree. Brad Stevens will find a way to just eat that man up, right? But you know, against the Sixers, against the Bucks, maybe just having a big to stand in the paint, get in front of their bigs. You know, I think a really lumbering big man can be very valuable. But I think there's value there, and he'd be a really high value at that point. But if he's can't fill that role, we end up playing a small ball team. Then just run Serge Ibaka as your main center, and then OG Anunoby. He proved that he can play that center position for long stretches against small ball teams. You know, I don't know if he's bigger than PJ Tucker, but I think he's a little bit taller, right? Just being able to go in there, play that back man of the defense. And Siakam's pretty athletic. Well, he's super athletic for power forward to block shots and stuff. I think, and we have a lot of rebounding guards, I think it would still be manageable. So I wouldn't write that type of player off. And, you know, this discussion is sort of revolved around Andre Drummond right now, but we're sort of talking about this style of player. So would you say anything different about Hassan Whiteside or Tristan Thompson that you wouldn't say about Andre Drummond?
I wouldn't say anything different, and this is where I agree with your argument, is that in a series, even if the Raptors somehow managed to get past that game 7 against the Boston Celtics, which they could have if things were different down that last 2-minute stretch. I won't get into it. I'm not going to open old wounds, but if they advance past that, we're both pretty confident that the Raptors would have had the advantage in a Heat series. And again, for a non-Raptors fan that would be potentially watching this, it's obviously a very criticizable point to make because the Heat went on to beat the Celtics, which beat the Raptors. But we just really foresee the Raptors having gone to the finals, had that Game 7 been the other outcome. And a guy like Andre Drummond or a guy like Hassan Whiteside, maybe a guy like Tristan Thompson, but I don't think he's the same level shot blocker as those other two guys might be. Would be good in a matchup against, JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard, whoever, and if in a series where Marc Gasol no longer exists and maybe Serge Ibaka is even a little bit too undersized for those guys, you're not going to put out Chris Boucher. You're not going to put out Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. You just have to find another way to manage that height difference. And that's the perfect situation where you're absolutely right. A certain series could benefit having a lumbering big. So
in a universe where Marc Gasol doesn't exist, he hasn't been traded. He hasn't been removed from the Toronto Raptors. He just doesn't exist as a human being. That's the parallel we're going into. But I guess
he went to volleyball.
I guess all the same criticisms. Marc Gasol is a volleyball player. But the same criticisms could be thrown to this name I'm going to throw out here now. But I think he could potentially come to the Raptors on a lot less money. And this is a guy I've been talking about for a minute, coming back to the Toronto Raptors. Listeners of the podcast know who I'm going to say. You know who I'm going to say. Bismack Biyombo is making a return. That's my, that's who I'm saying. Got to be that potential backup center because he can do all those things. He can rebound. He can block shots. He's mobile defensively. He can finish in the paint. He learned how to catch basketballs under this Toronto Raptors system. He was getting a little Bismack Biyombo midi before he left the Toronto Raptors. I want this man back. He was stolen from us by the Orlando Magic, who gave him $20 million per year, and he deserves every cent of it because he's Bismack Biyombo. He's the GOAT. But now I can see him returning on the minimum, Riker.
because okay, is the end and one. You know what? Thank you to Bismack Biyombo for providing me my fantasy team name, Bed Bath and Biyombo, for 3 seasons in a row. Never won, but the spirit was there. Two, is there any reason to bring him back above the guys that we first mentioned, Whiteside, Drummond, Tristan Thompson? Over that, they probably wouldn't accept the minimum. They probably wouldn't want to come off the bench. They probably might demand a multi-year contract. Like, is it just fandom aside and his cult status aside? Is Biyombo the most likely guy that you could bring in on a 1-year deal that would basically do the exact same things as the rest of the bigs?
That's my complete point, because all the negatives we've said about these bigs that can't shoot, and the thing about Biyombo, he's pretty mobile too, so defensively I think he'd be playable in these series, right? Like, obviously the shooting, you want a guy that can shoot, but if the Raptors' offense is cooking fine, he'd be able to go out there in stretches in these minutes, but he could definitely be very useful when you're trying to guard different bigs. I know he's a little bit undersized as well, but he showed that he can go up against these lumbering guys, particularly in terms of rebounding. I don't care if you have someone 7'8", Bismack Biyombo's out-rebounding that guy. So that's sort of my thoughts on it. It's...
All right, Ben, because I know you don't know, and maybe you do, maybe you'll surprise me, but pretend you don't, just for the allure here. He got paid $17 million this most recent season to play 20 minutes per game on the Charlotte Hornets. And what was his point per game, rebound per game?
Okay.
All the way around, but pretty close. But I don't know, is that enough for a 20-minute per game guy? I guess I'd have to watch a couple of these games too. 54% from the field, obviously no threes. I don't know. I don't watch any Charlotte Hornets games, to be honest. They're got to be one of the most boring.
You telling me
teams.
you're not trying to watch Terry Rozier throw up gang signs in the middle of the game? Devontae Graham splash some threes, bro.
Well, Devontae Graham is the one promising part
Miles
of their
Bridges,
team.
they got some bodies. Miles Bridges, PJ Washington. Yeah, they're fine. But I've actually surprisingly watched more Charlotte Hornets games than I probably should have this season. Yeah, actually, I watched
Raptors.
I'm a diehard Hornets fan here. Everyone,
if you haven't watched the Hornets Digest, check that out. That's Ben's side
check out
hustle.
my YouTube channel, the Charlotte Hornets Digest. Links below. But no, but Bismack Biyombo, he was a starter for them. I don't think he didn't play that many minutes as a starter. Like, he had the sort of Luis Scola starting position where he plays a little bit and all that, but definitely the defense is still there, the rebounding's still there. I think I don't know, it's all the things we've said, right? And as a minimum guy, you don't have to play him every game 20 minutes, right? I think he's a team-first player, especially where he's at in his career right now. I think he's still useful, he's still valuable. We remember what he did for us back on the team in 2016. That was our best year outside of our best playoff performance outside of, obviously, the season we won the NBA championship, making the conference finals. So he was a huge piece of that. I think him as an X factor coming in, being an energy guy, I'd love to see that. But I don't know, other names I'm going to just fire through at you that I've seen through the chats, like, occasionally as I scroll back and forth. Boogie Cousins, any chance you want to see him? No?
Nope.
No? Not even if he's healthy?
No. Dude, you talk about we're talking about somebody that is able to go out there and play rotation defense and come out to defend a 3-point. He's probably the slowest guy in the league. If there any criticism towards Jokic's athleticism, Marcus Cousins is like his fat cousin.
That's tough. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't want Boogie Cousins, even though, like, shout out Boogie. He's a guy.
He was the one-time best center in the NBA.
He was a beast. Like, I could see him coming back to some random team and being good, but don't want to risk it. Not trying to risk it with that. Yeah. One guy that's been thrown out a lot is Christian Wood. He's obviously been on the Pistons. He's mobile, big, shoots a lot of threes. That name's been thrown out. I believe he's a free agent right now. I think he's restricted. I'm not 100% sure on the contract situation, but obviously as a guy, I think he averaged like 26 points per game in the last 2 months of the season or something. He was something ridiculous. So Pistons fans are really...
On the year he was 13.
Yeah, he was 13-6, but he like exploded the last 6 weeks of the year before the bubble. Obviously before the bubble because the Pistons didn't go to the bubble. Yeah,
Trying to get that
exactly.
Norman
Bro.
Powell
So,
money.
do you want to see the Raptors max out Christian Wood?
Listen, all joking aside, Norman Powell played it perfectly. You know, come into his contract extension year and get that $10 million, scare Raptors fans senseless for like a season or two, and we're like, oh man, this guy literally just took the money and then became terrible. But no, I would much rather pay a veteran, because there's enough young guys in the development pool for the Toronto Raptors, and there's enough guys that we're already paying money. So for me, if we're looking to give somebody the bag here, it's got to be a veteran. And if we're looking to take a gamble, it's got to be a low contract guy.
Like out of all the names we named, obviously if you could just insert a player into the roster, I think what Christian Wood showed at the end of the season, he'd probably be the perfect fit, mobile big that can shoot threes and all that. But as you said, you're gonna have to give that man some money to pry him from the Detroit Pistons, because they are absolutely hopeless right now, and that's they're gonna max him out if another team comes in. It's all the bad teams. The Sacramento Kings are gonna offer Christian Wood like $30 million a year, and the Pistons are gonna be like, nah, let us keep our guy. So that's how I see that going. I saw that name pop up in the chat a bunch, but yeah, I saw Anthony Bennett there. Do you want to get a Canadian back on the group?
Bro.
Nah. Okay, fair enough. And I guess one player before we dive into the trades, Riker, because this is one player that's been talked about a lot. I think we're gonna plan on making a full out video, because it's been, the rumors about it are talked back and forth, on and off. But DeRozan, would you want to see a bag thrown at DeRozan, particularly if Fred VanVleet leaves? That was a pondering no. We got the facial expression.
No, because last time.
See us.
Yeah, see, normally we don't take so much time. We just jump straight into the hot take when we're recording it. Gotta keep that strict 16 to 20 minute reaction video length. But this is the issue, is me being a troll. I said I wouldn't take DeRozan back for a minimum contract, because even if he was willing to come off a bench, because that's just me being a troll. But being reasonable, if he was willing to come off the bench, it's not necessarily the worst thing, right? Even if he's the starter that's replacing Fred VanVleet, and the Raptors were somehow able to get another point guard. I don't know. We know the situation. We know that he's a ball stopper, that when the ball goes to his hands, it slows down, and he needs to play in the mid range, and he likes that sort of, the least valuable shot in the NBA, just from efficiency. Like those points are the worst points that you can technically shoot, just from a statistics standpoint. But the only thing is that really makes this a firm no, and not just me being, a troll, is that his 3-point shot was developing every year in the last couple of years as a Toronto Raptor, and fell off an absolute cliff on the San Antonio Spurs. And if you have a guy out there that, we saw it in the playoffs, and he can't shoot the 3, they'll just sag right off. And that's useless to have from a guard. It's bad enough when it's a big that can't shoot a 3, but you can't really hide it when it's a guard.
He started shooting threes with the Raptors, and if you saw the podcast he was on with, I believe it was JJ Redick, he's saying he can shoot threes, he just doesn't want to. It's like he's stubborn about it, and Greg Popovich is stubborn about it. So it's like a kind of a horrible combo to have. Neither of them like 3-point shooting, so they just hate analytics. That reminds me, did you see the video going around about Gilbert Arenas just trashing analytics on on Earl Watson's podcast or something like that? I don't know. This man's out here. I don't think people, threes are worth more than 2, and if you shoot them at a high volume and your rate of accuracy decreases out, I don't know why people just don't get it makes sense to shoot more threes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. And he is like who is it? He's like the rapper that doesn't believe in science. B.O.B.
That's my guy.
He just doesn't believe in stats. He's
Fake
like,
news,
stats is
bro.
fake
Oh,
news.
there's a lot of people out here that just hate analytics. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can make the argument too that it's like, all right, to what you're saying basically there's no limit to how many threes that you need to you could take. So if the stats are telling you to shoot exclusively threes, that's basically what the Houston Rockets committed to, and
Yeah, well,
didn't work out for them.
Like they went up against. You could argue it kind of did work out for them. This is like a huge tangent, but with players that could actually shoot threes, and they never actually had a team where they had 5 guys on the court that could all knock down the three. But with 4 of them, Chris Paul and the Rockets, they took a team with an injured Chris Paul that was arguably the greatest roster ever assembled to 7 games.
And, dude, that was a fluke. It was a fluke they lost that. And you can make the argument that it was nerves, or that, the defense, or that, that Golden State Warriors team that is one of the best teams ever assembled, they found a way to, get in their heads, whatever. You can make any sort of argument to say that there was a reason that they missed 27 straight 3-pointers. But I think it ultimately comes down to that is complete and utter luck for the Golden State Warriors, because there was a ton of those shots that were wide open, and these are career 3-point shooters.
Yep.
These are guys that are taking hundreds of shots per game practice. They've made hundreds of shots in the regular season, and for them, I don't know what the minute stretch was, but to miss 27 threes in a row, that's just bad luck at that point.
I completely agree. You're getting a podcast from 2 guys that love to fire off some threes and wreck basketball, so maybe
the difference is you can make them. I can't. I just shoot them.
We're shooters, bro. Keep that shooting. Shooters gotta shoot. But we have a few trades, Ryker. We have a few trades we gotta throw out here for you guys. I haven't really seen them. I had a glance at them because I had to put them in this editor for the stream, but I don't really know who the Raptors are sending, but I see the big deals. I'm going to read them out, and I'm going to react to them just like you guys are. Ryker made these, so...
Okay, Ben, before you start, again, because I'm assuming that Fred VanVleet is going to get Marc Gasol's money, and on the ESPN trade machine, Fred VanVleet's contract is not updated. He's still at $8 million or $9 million. So... where you see Marc Gasol, it really means Fred VanVleet.
So, I don't know. We were planning on having a segment video for this because we're going to throw these in all the live stream podcasts, because who doesn't love some Blockbuster trade hypotheticals just to end off a video, to throw out there. So we're going to have a video clip for this next week. Obviously, preface and everything, no rumors about these unless I don't think there's any, this isn't reporting or anything like that. This is just fun sort of crafting things together. We have made some Blockbuster trade videos where we've said that in the past and then have, we usually preface it, but get flamed in the comments. But this is just for memes, for fun. The first trade thrown out there, I'm going to throw this on the screen, hope this overlay works. It looks like it does, okay. Oh, we have a Oladipo trade. So Oladipo to the Raptors. Osmo's man himself, Norman Powell, Patrick McCaw, Hollis Jefferson, Terrence Davis, and Matt Thomas to the Indiana Pacers. Ryker, what were you thinking during this deal, bro?
Yep. I'm thinking ultimately Victor Oladipo could be a net positive for the Toronto Raptors. And I get this completely guts our entire bench, our entire ability to have a bench lineup. But at some point, Kyle Lowry is going to get pulled back into that backup position. He's not going to be the starting point guard. And if you trade Fred VanVleet, because that was the big video that we broke down, the potential that, maybe there'll be a sign and trade, get Victor Oladipo on that 1-year rental. We said, in that 1 year, it's not necessarily a negative thing. You're obviously losing a bit of 3-point shooting, but you're bringing in a guy who has a bit more height at his position, can attack the basket, could have probably helped in that Boston Celtics series. Then you look into the future, let's say you've traded away Fred VanVleet, your intention is that he's going to re-sign, and in this situation, let's pretend that he does. Now all of a sudden, Kyle Lowry gets older, he's out of that one position, you have nobody to fill in the natural one. So to me, it makes sense, keep around Fred VanVleet. If we're saying it's a net positive to bring in Victor Oladipo, let's just trade other guys to get him.
Let's trade our whole bench unit. Let's throw it on the screen one more time. Norman Powell, Patrick McCaw, Hollis Jefferson, TD, Matt Thomas. Obviously, we're rocking with last year's trade thing, so the deals might be a little bit sketchy. I think Hollis Jefferson's a free agent, but the rest of the guys could still be on there. And, I don't mind it because obviously the big thing in the NBA is you want to trade you trade 5. I think Max Kellerman always uses this lines. You trade 4 quarters for $1 every single time because you can always find those quarter players. So this value for Depot I think would be great. Obviously Norm Powell, it sucks to lose him, and you can make the argument maybe Norm, especially where he took a step forward. Obviously he struggled in half of that Boston Celtics series, but he took a big step forward this year. But you can make the argument that 2 of those guys are both injury prone. Obviously the ceiling for Oladipo is better, so you can rock with that there. But the one question I am throwing out against you, we don't have many young guys, but Terrence Davis and Matt Thomas, Riker, those are young bodies with the potential. Matt Thomas has been compared to JJ Redick. Obviously could develop into that. He's coming to the league a little bit older and all that, but TD is a guy that I think will have a lot of value as a All-NBA second team rookie. Played trash in the bubble, was very struggled vitally during the playoffs, to the point where he just couldn't be on the court. But I have a lot of high hopes for both of those guys. Would you be comfortable just giving them away for a guy that could be a 1-year rental or could just be injured and you don't want to pay him?
It's tough to say because I'm framing this in the way that if the Raptors can become a more desirable place next season, then there's more potential to land Giannis. And a team with Victor Oladipo at the 2, Fred at the 1, Pascal at the 3 or the 4 or the 5, whatever you want to put him, and Giannis is a much stronger team than no Oladipo and a bunch of guys that have the potential to get better but are not there yet. That's the way that I'm looking at it. Also, we look at this playoff time. We saw flashes of Terrence Davis throughout the regular season where he played really well. And in very limited minutes, we saw Matt Thomas be able to come out and immediately shoot it. But they were by no means the reason that the Raptors had number 2 record in the entire NBA. That they brought the Boston Celtics to 7 games. Probably should have won that game 7. Probably would have went on to defeat the Miami Heat in that next series. They weren't part of that. They wouldn't have shared that success. It was that core group of guys that we already have. So it's more like you'd be worried to lose the potential that they are, but not what they are at the moment.
That's a fair point, but I don't know. Let us know what you guys think. Obviously, Oladipo is a huge guy that's been in Raptors news, and we got to milk all the Oladipo content we can as the reports continue to come up. So, the next report that comes out, we'll make another video on it. I think that was our third highest performing video actually. I got like 70K views on that.
People said it was really well done.
Shout out you guys. Hard to see you guys. But we got trade 2. I recall these getting wilder and wilder. So I'm just gonna throw it out here now. Ooh. Okay, can we trade? Okay, so I assume Marc Gasol is Fred VanVleet in this deal.
Yeah.
So Fred VanVleet, ignore the Marc Gasol picture there. Norman Powell, TD, for Giannis and Brook Lopez. Not even just Giannis, bro. We're getting Brook Lopez himself, Splash Mountain. I don't think there's any way this happens, bro.
But on whose side? That's the big question.
There's no way the Bucks are taking this.
You don't think that the Bucks? Let me say it this way: the Bucks would never trade Giannis unless they're certain that they're not going to be able to re-sign him. But let's say they're having their GM talks with Giannis this offseason or throughout the regular season, and he's saying, "Listen, guys, I've made up my mind, not staying. I'm gonna shop the free agency. You're like 99% not gonna get me back." And all of a sudden, they're thinking the same thing that the San Antonio Spurs were thinking with Kawhi Leonard, that we know this guy's gonna leave in free agency. We let him walk, and we have cap space, but we're not a desirable market to get anybody back. Milwaukee less so than San Antonio. Let's maximize our ability to at least get some return here. And now you're getting one guy with finals MVP experience. He got that 1 vote in Fred VanVleet. They're sorely lacking in their losing Malcolm Brogdon and bringing in what's his name?
Wesley Matthews.
Their point guard.
Their point guard?
No, their point guard.
George Hill?
No.
Oh, Bledsoe.
Who's their starting point guard? Bledsoe.
Okay.
Eric Bledsoe was by no means, an improvement or even the status quo with what they lost from Malcolm Brogdon. So you're bringing in a guy who can provide 3-point shooting that, as a real floor general. Norman Powell, who's probably at the highest that his market value has ever been, and then a prospect and a guy who can develop into and at the guard position in Terrence Davis. I don't see how that's not a desirable trade to make if you're certain that Antetokounmpo.
No, like I agree. Like that's a lot of value we're giving up. Like I'm as high on Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, all these guys, and maybe the Bucks would be even more high on Norman Powell considering what he does to the Milwaukee Bucks seemingly every playoffs. So there's the argument to be made there. And yes, like if Giannis, I think this maybe could be a deal that happens if Giannis says, I'm going to the Raptors. Like, don't send me anywhere else. Like if he says that or puts out a list or something like that and the Bucks want to say that. But my counterpoint, or I have a few counterpoints to this, and it's Klay Thompson and 2 top 5 picks. That gets a deal done. Maybe the Warriors would want to go younger. They wouldn't want to play with Chris Middleton or something. So maybe there's a point there. But even 2 high picks.
But this is the issue though with Klay Thompson is, one, he has the benefit of being on a tremendous team, with Steph Curry. And I'm of the opinion that he is very similar to Draymond Green, and that Draymond Green now has shown that he was extremely overrated. He was a guy that was like almost a triple-double guy, and now he's on a bad team, and he can't put up a quarter of the stat lines that he was able to before. He's a guy that just works well as the 4th man or the 5th man. I think Thompson could be the, similar situation. But he's also a guy that can't create a shot. He's not a ball handler. He's not a shot creator. He's a spot-up shooter. He's a one-dribble pull guy. And so is that what the Milwaukee Bucks would sort of hinge their whole thing on? Like, who would be their ball handler at that point?
But see, like, you're minimizing that by ignoring the fact Klay Thompson is by far the best spot-up shooter in NBA history. And he's like a spark plug. And Eric Bledsoe could even go in and throw the ball to Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson could maybe get 30 if he gets 5 extra threes per game. So, I don't know. I think you're underrating the value of Klay Thompson there on top of the value of 2 unprotected first-round picks. The Miami Heat could probably come in with Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. They could throw in a deal like that, which I think knocks us.
Don't tell me for a second, don't kid me for a second that Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero is more appealing than Fred VanVleet.
To Raptors fans, I completely agree with you. To the average NBA fan and probably the people that don't watch the Raptors night in, night out, that's going to be a deal that I think gets it done. Maybe some picks in there as well. And the Mavericks could come in with like Kristaps Porzingis or something. Like if the Raptors are trading for Giannis, I think it's going to have to be Siakam. Like I think if the trade is there, I think that's the deal that gets it done. Like Siakam and a pick maybe or something like that. Because just to outbid these other teams. And that's like, obviously we could have put the Giannis watch video in this because we're rambling on about Giannis now again as we always do. But if we're gonna trade for him, if it's a trade that's gonna happen, I think it's gonna have to be that. But you never know. You never know. Obviously the Bucks might not be interested, as you said, in Klay Thompson. Obviously the value of young guys across the league varies by fan base because I think someone, a Miami Heat fan might say, Riker, you're crazy for thinking Terrence Davis is as valuable as Tyler Hero, or, obviously you're not saying that, but like that package. So that's one there. I don't know. The Giannis trades, the Giannis scenarios, everything that comes out, we're going to be covering that all. Got to throw in a little Giannis trade in the live video, the episode 1. But we have a final trade brought up here, and
gotta get my rap noise ready.
The rap noise, get the lights going. The lights going back, for these things.
All right.
Okay.
Say it. Shout it
Throwing
out.
it on the screen. So, okay. So once again, Marc Gasol is Fred VanVleet in this trade. Don't mind that. But Fred VanVleet, TD, and Matt Thomas. You're just trying to throw out TD. You saw the anti-mask thing, and you were just like, let's get rid of this guy for Bradley Beal. Not another Bradley Beal trade, Riker. Bradley
Yes,
Beal's
sir.
not my guy. He ruined my soul a few times. Too many in the regular season and playoffs. Obviously, he'd be a beast to pick up for the Toronto Raptors. Riker, why are you trying to get... I'm going to let you speak on this, bro.
Dude, I love Bradley Beal. I'm so high on the Bradley Beal hype train, it is unreal. But think about it, Ben. This is maybe the top 3 shooting guard in the NBA. Is that a
he's
reasonable
good.
claim
Like,
to make?
he's definitely a
I
beast.
think He is definitely one of the most clutch three-point shooters in the NBA too. And I mean, every time you talk about shooters, shooting guards, point guards, whatever, obviously you're going to think about the Warriors as well. But if you think about what this man is able to do come playoff time, it's phenomenal. Like he's put his team on his back so many times, regular season games, whatever. Like this guy is a one-man show, and he's a shooting guard. It's insane. He's got perfect size. I don't think there's any questioning any of his abilities. There's no real gaps in his game. He's able to turn it on both ends. And if there was one thing that the Toronto Raptors were missing, it's a scorer. And if you can bring in a scorer that can also defend, no, but think about this. Think about the tandem of Bradley Beal, Siakam, Giannis.
Bro, like, obviously that's like a dream scenario. And as much as Bradley Beal has hurt me, as much as obviously like I look at the guy and I just suffer from 2015. But looking at the trade again, Fred TD Matty T. Does that get a deal done for Bradley Beal, Riker? Obviously, we talked about the value of Terrence Davis.
I don't know, but what are the Wizards hanging on
Bro,
to?
they got Rui Hachimura. They got John Wall coming back, who's looked good in some runs. John Wall, Bradley Beal, Hachimura, Davis Bertans.
Dude,
they have one of the best offenses in the league
John
last year.
Wall on $40 million a year coming back. I said they have old, fat, brittle John Wall coming back on $40 million a year. What is their plan, dude? What is
their plan? Is to hope and pray that John Wall is good. Bradley Beal said he wants to stay with the Wizards. He's just looking for a John Wall contract, but that's why he wants to stay there. But they have a piece in Bradley Beal. I don't think they trade it for. Like, if John Wall, as you said, is on such a big contract, why would you go in and trade for, like, 4 more guards? You know?
Because John Wall is going to be aged and fat and brittle. I said those 3 things. Dude, his biggest asset in the league is that he was the undisputed fastest guard in the NBA. That was facts. He was the fastest guard in the NBA. And he would just plow past people on the fast break. He could beat people off the first step. You take away his quickness, his athleticism. What does John Wall have left?
He's a swag guy. Like he's
not half
the
the
last name. You know, you can shoot middies, bro.
The John,
bro, this man's. I don't know. I think John Wall's kind of underrated, and I think if he can get back to a little bit of form, like he was a top 5 point guard by far in the league. Like there's no disputing.
He's not underrated. He was an all-star before he got.
I think his career gets sort of overlooked. You know what I mean? Like it's like people forget about John Wall.
Yeah, but you have okay. I just bestowed all the compliments on Bradley Beal, and now you could say the equal things to a healthy John Wall. What are you talking about? It gets overlooked. It rightfully so. It gets overlooked in the same way that you should overlook DeMar DeRozan.
You should overlook. Wait, what's the DeMar comparison there?
Well, because DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry are a fantastic regular season team, but ultimately they were never good enough as a duo to achieve anything great in the playoffs. And yes, maybe if LeBron is in the West or whatever, but I think ultimately we realized in losing DeMar, gaining a guy like Kawhi Leonard, that there's just a certain brand of player that elevates your team to the next level. And you could make the same argument about the duo of Bradley Beal and John Wall. If they were really great, they would have more success than they've had. They barely make it out of the first round.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're not. John Wall is not the caliber of a Kawhi Leonard or any of that means. But John Wall is sort of like written to the.
Yeah. So what do you mean?
Well,
he's
written. No one even like speaks about him. I think you're underrating him right now. This man. Yeah, but like he's gonna come back, bro. He's gonna come back.
And be more of the same.
Even if he's not as athletic, even if he's not the John Wall doing crazy dunks and all those sorts of things, he was one of the best playmakers in the NBA, one of the best ball handlers in the NBA before he went down with injury. You know, his 3-point shot really elevated to his career high level before he went down with injury. Obviously, having 2 years off to work on those set shooting forms and all that sort of stuff. You know this man's about to come back, be Steph Curry. I think. Even regardless of your opinion, anyone's opinion of him, when you got $45 million invested in the guy, you're not just trading his co-star and just for pieces that is the same as the other guy you're paying $45 million to that you have no chance of getting rid of. So that's sort of my take. I just don't think they're going to make that deal. They're not going to make that move for Bradley Beal. I think they've had offers of everything for Bradley Beal over the past 2-3 years, and I don't really think Fred, TD, and Matt Thomas get the deal done.
That's fair. What would it take? They need what, like Anthony Davis,
Well,
basically.
obviously, an Anthony Davis trade would work, but I'm thinking like a lot of picks. Proof John Wall's gone. Maybe someone taking on that John Wall contract, right? So they could go full.
Yeah, but how would you? But you're saying you'd have to trade John Wall and Bradley Beal.
No,
the
but I'm
same
saying,
deal.
but
That's
I'm
like
saying
50.
like a move where the Wizards go complete rebuilding, lots of young pieces, lots of this, or obviously a superstar. You know, like a top 5 guy that's better than Bradley Beal. So
Yeah, and I think the issue too, with us being high on Fred VanVleet, is at the end of the day he hasn't been an All-Star, and I think that's the reason that Siakam has more trade value, and also he was regarded as being the number 1 guy. But not being an All-Star, and you're going to trade away an All-Star for a package. I'd agree. It would be a hard one. I would love
Bradley Beal would be culture. Bradley Beal would be good to have in. Him, Giannis, all the boys. What do you think's more likely, Depot or Bradley Beal becoming a Toronto Raptor? Depot, yeah. Depot's pulling up. I don't know. That's some trades. That's a live video right there. We have a lot of stuff happening. Throwing on the crazy lights. Riker, you need one of these disco ball lights to pop off. Get out the end. We're gonna try and get some audio clips in this, make this higher production value, get an actual camera for me. You're right, your video's actually looking pretty crisp right now. I don't know if it's the Mac camera. It's the lighting.
Hey, it was the lighting. It was literally just the lighting
here, so gonna have to figure all that out for the next live. But you guys are the best for checking out this live. Let us know what you think in the chat right now in the comments. Check out the video, like it. I don't know what you actually do with a live stream right now. I haven't watched many of these on YouTube, so I don't know. You're the best for making this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. Yeah, we got a lot of exciting stuff happening with the Raptors Digest.
But you're not going to give the classic sign
I
off?
just kind of butchered that whole sign off because it's a different style video. But any last words, Riker?
That's
I'm
it for
also
me,
thinking
Ben.
about how
Cheers.
on earth do I end this stream? I think it's this button.
There's just going to be a very awkward final 15 seconds.
I think this is it.